Welcome back to the second episode of Journal Wells Beyond All Borders. Today we're going to dive a bit more into IVF and choosing the appropriate clinic for you based on your needs, based on your situation, and how you go about just deciding where to go and what clinic to choose. After sharing my story in episode 1, today's episode is going to just give you more insight into what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be doing it, and how to navigate it. So one of the questions we like to ask is, what's really stopping you from having IVF abroad? What's stopping you from going to that next stage in your journey? Is it money? Is it fear? What are the kind of boundaries and the borders that you've got placed on you and you're placing on yourself, when we can try and slowly help you to break those down? If you are considering IVF abroad, or you know anybody who is thinking about it, working through it, or you've just had a conversation with somebody about it, please make sure you like, subscribe, and then put a comment or a question below so that we can maybe help you decide what's the best option for you based on your situation. So I want to talk about why we chose Turkey and also what other countries are out there for you. Now, as I mentioned previously in my other video, Turkey is a country that is going to work for you if you are legally husband and wife and you're using your own genetic material, so your own eggs and your own sperm for IVF. There's no way to get donor sperm, donor eggs. Any donor material is not possible in Turkey. And again, each country has its own rules and what you can and can't do. With Turkey, we were happy to stay there for 3 weeks. If you're going to do the full IVF, make sure you're going to choose a country that you're happy to stay in for up to 3 weeks. You can tolerate the food, you are comfortable with the tourism element of it. Most of your appointments will be a fraction of the time you're going to spend in that country. And for us, I think with Istanbul as a location, Turkey is a place that we always feel like is a bit like home to us. So we're planning to retire there. We're going to move there eventually. So Turkey was a place that we were very comfortable with going. Plus, we had the situation of being husband and wife, so that was fine. None of the issues arose for us. Also, we need to think about the conversation we have with our partner, whether that's your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. What are those conversations you're having? Are you both on the same page? Are you both happy to go to the same countries? Have you really sat down and just asked each other these kind of questions? What do you want out of this? What kind of activities do you want to do around this? How are we going to make this one of the most memorable journeys of our lives, while also concentrating on each of our wellness, each of our well-beings, and also making it fun and enjoyable as well? It's, at the end of the day, it is a holiday as well as you're going for medical treatments. So the medical treatments will be in total a couple of days out of your whole trip. Just it'll be an appointment here, a procedure here. Around that, you've got all this extra time to go and explore. So it's choosing the right country for you and making sure that country is appropriate for your needs. You also need to think about, what are you nervous about? So for me, the barriers that I was placing on myself were things like work commitments, the village, as people say. We don't have so much of a village where we are, so we moved away from London to be closer by the sea, so we don't really have people around us. There's no family to help look after the children or babysit when you need to do things. So we were completely on our own, and to an element we still are. We don't have people babysitting, and again, having a child with autism comes with a whole new collection of challenges. So again, that's a conversation for another day. But you need to think about, when you come back and you get your positive pregnancy test, what does the next steps look like? So that for me was a big fear. I didn't even know about maternity leave. I thought maternity leave was fully paid. I thought that I'd be able to have help and it would be okay. But when I looked into it deeper, my fears were, how am I going to go to work? What if I need to be in an office? What if I need to do this? And then those kind of fears spiraled into this snowball effect of, well, how am I going to have this baby? So that just took over, and that just gave me anxiety to the nth degree. There was also the anxiety that I had of, because of my age, we placed 2 embryos for the embryo transfer instead of just 1. Now, obviously, I wanted to maximise my chances, but having two embryos comes with the possibility of having two babies. So I spent a lot of my time panicking, thinking, what am I going to do if two babies come? And then again, it's about thinking about what friends and family are going to think and say and support. And again, having those negative or positive elements is very crucial to how you cope with everything, because you need to make sure your stress levels are down. So all of these kind of things can and were a factor in choosing the right location for IVF. For us, it wasn't so much a big deal. Nobody had opinions, nobody said anything to us. So we chose the country we chose, and that was the plan. What assumptions do you have about doing IVF abroad? What are the fears that you're facing? What are the problems that you think will arise? Are you scared of hygiene? Are you scared of not understanding the language? Are you scared of being away from home for that amount of time? Put your fears and your queries in the comments so that we can break those down for you and support you with the next episodes. We're going to look at how to find your clinic. Now, before you find a clinic, we want to start with finding a country. What country is going to be the best country for you? What is your situation? Are you two men or two women looking to have a child together? Are you husband and wife? Are you boyfriend and girlfriend? Are you a solo parent? What are your plans? That's how you categorize what country you're going to go to first. Based on what sort of couple you are, your first part of research is going to get a list of countries that you're allowed to do certain IVFs in. So some countries that support solo parent or a solo woman going to get a donor sperm and have an embryo and do this whole situation on her own. There's certain countries like Cyprus or Denmark or Czech Republic or Spain. So there's certain countries that you can go to as a single woman to go and have a baby. There are equally different countries you can go to as a same-sex couple, depending on what you're looking for. Are you looking for surrogacy? Are you looking for donor embryos, donor sperm, donor eggs? So based on what you're looking for, your first aspect is to break down the list of countries that you're allowed to do your procedure in. Once you get that list of countries, then you need to decide how long are you going to be in this country for, and which country would you rather be in? Which country would you rather stay for 1 to 3 weeks in? So if you've got a collection of 3 countries that are a possibility for your IVF treatment, then have a look on YouTube, look at the videos, look at the tourism things, look at the major cities in these countries where they have clinics. I used What Clinic website, which I think tends to look around Turkey for different clinics and works off of a lot of reviews, Googling research on that clinic to make sure it was like safe and there wasn't anything that was going to make me feel uncomfortable. Another good thing to do is also, depending on where you are, there will be fertility shows. I attended the fertility show in London, had a stand there, and there was a number of different clinics from all over Europe and Turkey who were coming to present their clinic and show you what they could offer you. They have fertility shows all over Europe, all over the US. So every country that's available has a certain type of fertility show that you can go to and meet these clinics firsthand if you're really anxious. And you can go and speak to them, tell them your situation, and they will give you advice based on your particular needs. You should also look for reviews, customer testimonials, different case studies of people who've already been through that clinic and they've got experience with it. For me, also a really big factor, and this is for me personally due to my ADHD and my need for people to be responsive quickly, is how a clinic communicates with me. Before I selected my clinic, I did have 2 to 3 clinics in mind. So I emailed and messaged all of them, and how fast they respond and how attentive they were is also important to me. If I send you an email and I'm not getting a response back within 24 hours, I feel like you don't care, or you can't handle your work or your email situation. So if you can't handle an email, you're not going to be able to handle a serious procedure with my body. So responsive time is very important to me. And this kind of makes a clinic stand out. So when I got a response from my clinic before the other 2 clinics, and equally all 3 clinics, I'd weighed up the odds and I'd looked into all the research, all the feedback I wanted. And to make sure that these clinics had a kind of structure and a process of answering their comms on time, I was like, okay, you're kind of orderly, you know how to prioritize, you know how to work, your work structure is amenable. So That also was a deciding factor for me. Let's walk through some of the practical questions you should be asking your clinic before you commit to any payment. What is included in the price? So every clinic will give you a price point, some different packages, and you would like to know what exactly is included in the cost that you're paying. So is it IVF? Is it IVF with ICSI? That ICSI part of the IVF is where they actually inject the sperm directly into the egg so that you're not putting a bunch of sperms and eggs together and just seeing what happens. Do you get any sort of blood test? Make sure you're breaking down exactly what comes with the cost of the IVF package that you're paying for. You'll also need to ask about medication. So you'll have to have injectable medication and sometimes tablets, depending on your medical history. Injectable medications for the follicles to grow and the eggs to grow in that kind of rapid pace. So you need to make sure, does the treatment come with the medication costs? Are you going to send me the medications to my home country? Do I come out there and collect the medications if I'm staying for a longer period of time? Or where can I get the medications from in my home country? So making sure you have all these details before you commit to an IVF cycle from a clinic as well will just give you that extra peace of mind. And if you know exactly your step by step from A, doing the blood test, B, getting my medication, when do I come in for my appointments, getting a whole timeline before you commit to anything is going to make your life a lot easier. Take away a lot of that panic from thinking, what do I do next? What happens next? And then you'll have a clean structure and process of what you're going to do day by day so that you know where you are in your IVF journey, in that IVF cycle. We need to also be asking about embryo freezing and storage. How is your embryos stored after? If there are spares, how much does that cost? And also, based on your age, your situation, if you've got anything like endo or any fibroids, any sort of issues that you have, surgery beforehand. I had a lady who I sent to the clinic that I had IVF at, and she had to come home because she had to get fibroids removed. So there's going to be a point where you need to have as much information on your situation as possible to give to your IVF clinic. Your emergency contact is going to be important for the clinic as well. So, and you'll have travel insurance. Do not go there without travel insurance. You're going to need to give your emergency contact. So that could be somebody who's going to be back home and also the partner that is with you. You might be in a operating room doing embryo transfer or an egg retrieval, and your partner might not be in that building with you. They might be out somewhere else. So making sure that the hospital or clinic has all the contact details for your partner, and then somebody else back home, wherever your home is, whether it's the UK, US, Europe, making sure that you've got an extra emergency contact to give to them as well. So a phone number, an address, and an email of as many people as you can for an emergency. Let's talk about travel and accommodation. So you've chosen the country you want to go to, you've narrowed down a couple of clinics, and you want to think about dates and times. Now, before you book anything, if you're going to do IVF as a woman, for example, you need to make sure you've timed your cycle, timed your periods, and you are flying out on a date that is appropriate to the date in your cycle. So it all needs to be worked out, and you need to be in communication with your clinic doctor as well. So with the clinics abroad, most of the time they will have a partner hotel that you can work with, and they will give you discounts. They can give you a package deal including accommodation. I personally prefer to choose my own accommodation just further away from the main town, so we could get the metro and we could travel around the country and town exploring. But you can either use the accommodation they're going to give you, which is at a discounted rate, or you can just look for an Airbnb or flight hotel package using a provider like Jet2 or Love Holidays. There's so many different providers that can offer cheap flights and cheap accommodation. At the time when we went, we used Turkish Airlines and an Airbnb because we were there for 3 weeks. So it depends on your situation. But again, if you need help on this, drop a comment. You can send an email to hello@journawell.com. That's JOURNAWELL.com. All of our services are free. We don't charge anything, but if you leave a comment, we can reach out to you and give you advice on your specific needs. Trusting your instincts is also very important, and it's very important to most of your life's journeys and your well-being. But trusting your instincts in this situation is very important. If you don't feel like a certain clinic is right, and if you feel like you're getting a weird vibe or not a comfortable communication from them, you can change clinics. If you haven't paid for anything, if you haven't committed, or if you have paid for something and you're not getting what you need, you can always say to them, this isn't working for me. I'd like to find another clinic. So don't feel pressure to doing anything. Make sure you've done all your research first. You've had a full conversation with them before you've signed any contracts, and you've asked every single question that's possible. You don't have to agree to something you're not happy with. What would I do differently? This is a question that I get asked a lot of times. I researched it so much. I was very, very prepared. The only things I think I would have done differently is maybe put a bit more money aside for testing, genetic testing. But again, I don't think you can detect autism for a genetic test. So it probably wouldn't have made much difference. But again, that always plays on my mind with the genetic testing. Would there have been higher graded embryos? Could I don't know, could I have saved my son from having autism and he could have had a more communicative life? I don't know. That's one thing that will play in my mind, and it's something I can't change now. But I had a bit of time, so I might have taken a few more months to save up a bit more money to do some extra testing. And again, it wouldn't have made any difference, but I think just knowing that I'd done that would have been something, one less thing on my mind. I would have packed a little differently. Now, we went to Istanbul in April, and it wasn't hot or cold. It was an in between temperature. You could have worn just like a loose jumper and some jeans. I would have packed a bit more comfy, more like stretchy trousers, jogging bottoms, something a bit more comfortable, because I think a lot of the days I didn't feel great. So I packed a lot of like evening outfits, high heel shoes. I didn't need any of those things. I packed a bit more as if I was just living at home, just in jogging bottoms, some gym gear, something comfortable, because not only we're walkers anyway, so we did a lot of walking around Istanbul, up and down hills. We jumped on the ferry, so just trainers and comfort clothes would have been a lot better for me. What surprised me the most was how enjoyable the whole trip was. So again, I'd been to Istanbul before. I'd lived in Istanbul, so showing my husband around Galata Tower, going for cheesecakes, going to different restaurants, going to Sarıyer, going to Taksim, all these different places where we explored and enjoying ourselves was something that surprised me the most, because I thought I would be a lot more stressed and a lot more irritable. And yes, I was ill sometimes, and yes, we had a few days resting, but again, we were there for 21 days, so we had time to have a rest and go about. And I think the only other thing I would have done was probably spent a little bit more on the accommodation. Um, you think when you're going on holiday, and I don't really mind having like a basic accommodation because I'm outside all the time. Come back to the hotel to sleep, get changed, shower, go out again. So I think I booked the accommodation as if I was going on a holiday. So it's just a basic. I think it was 2 or 3 bedroom apartment with a kitchen. It was a nice apartment, but I mean, it wasn't anything luxurious or fancy. I mean, I don't think we even need something fancy, but just something a bit more soft and comfortable, maybe, with like plush sofas, a big bed. It was just very, very basic, like at the bottom of Shishli, and Mecidiyeköy metro stations in Istanbul, which is quite near a big shopping mall. So the location was good, because if I was hungry, I could go to the shopping mall, the Jevahir Mall, and just get some snacks or chocolate strawberries. But I just think maybe an accommodation a bit closer to the main town, and also just a bit more plush, would have been something I would go back and change. But again, it was fine. I wasn't uncomfortable. It's just reflections looking back. And I think really for you, at the end of the day, as long as you and your partner are on the same page, and you're you've chosen a country that you're allowed to do your IVF in based on your situation, and you plan activities to do, things to see, you take it as a holiday with appointments in between, then you're going to enjoy and relax and have your body mentally prepared for that IVF. The difference between people who go to an IVF abroad location, they go in there and focusing on the IVF only and not enjoying the holiday between it. Those activities in between the actual appointments are what make your mind and your body stress free in order to absorb that embryo and have that baby grow. So see it as a holiday. Plan the holiday around your appointments, but just focus on having a nice time with your partner, because this may be the last time that it's just you and your partner alone. After that, you've got to focus on the pregnancy, what happens next. So just enjoy that time together and just see where it takes you. If IVF abroad feels impossible for you right now, then just break it down into smaller chunks. Think about what country you'd like to go to for your IVF, what country is appropriate. You've got tools such as ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. Use some of these tools to help you narrow down a country. Give it a prompt that says, me and my partner want to have a baby. We're not married. Give me a list of countries where we could do this legally using donor eggs or donor sperm. Just give it your situation and ask it for a list of countries that are legal for you to do your IVF, and then quickly research to make sure that that's factual. And those are the countries that you can start with to work through and start to narrow those down. Allow yourself to really think that, okay, maybe the whole concept of IVF abroad is a lot right now, but what can I do as step one? Thinking in bite-sized portions instead of the bigger picture just makes things more manageable. What is my budget? What country can I go to? That's it for today. That's all you need to do. And then maybe next weekend you can start to look at, well, which clinics in these countries do I like? Which clinics offer the services that I need? Start to narrow down your countries, your clinics, and just work it step by step. I think sometimes the biggest borders or barriers to IVF abroad isn't geography, it isn't finances, but I think it's about the fear of getting started. It's the fear of failing and it's the fear of not having that baby. So instead of having that fear, take the fear away and just focus on what's next. What is next for you? Is it researching your company's policies on IVF abroad and how to get leave? Is it going to doctors and asking for advice? What is your next step? And if you don't know that, pop it in the comments and we'll figure it out together. What are the biggest questions that you still have about IVF? Put that in the comments and we'll be able to answer these questions in the next episodes. And what do you feel that you are unsure about? And what is stopping you? What is the barrier that you're facing into going for it and booking that trip to complete your IVF abroad journey? If you've found today's episode helpful, please like and subscribe and help us to help more people finally complete their family and take a leap on something that they might be uncertain about or something that's stopping them from doing it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope this has been helpful. Until next time, just keep taking one step at a time and keep breaking down those borders and barriers that we're placing on ourselves. Thank you. Have a good day.